just going to start off with the introduction today. The Book of Mormon. Here's the table of contents. Table of contents. Now today we're just going to read the testimony of the prophet of Joseph Smith. Apparently, he's the guy who started it all. It's the kind of reason this thing exists. The prophet Joseph Smith's own words about the coming forth of the Book of Mormon are: on the evening of the 21st of September, 1823, I betook myself to prayer and supplication of Almighty God. While I was thus in the act of calling upon God, I discovered a light appearing in my room, which continued to increase until the room was lighter than at noonday, when immediately a personage appeared at my bedside, standing in the air. For his feet did not touch the floor. He had on a loose robe of a most exquisite whiteness. It was a whiteness beyond anything earthly I had ever seen, nor do I believe that any earthly thing could have made to appear so exceedingly white and brilliant. His hands were naked, and his arms also, a little above the wrists, so also were his feet naked, as were his legs, a little above the ankle. His head and neck were also bare. I could discover that he had no other clothing on but this robe, and as it was open, so that I could see into his bosom. Not only was his robe exceedingly white, but his whole person was glorious beyond description, and his countenance truly like lightning. The room was exceedingly light, but not so very bright as immediately around his person. When I first looked upon him, I was afraid. The fear soon left me. He called me by name and said unto me that he was a messenger sent from the presence of God to me, and that his name was Moroni, that God had a work for me to do, that my name should be had for good and evil among all nations, kindreds, and tongues, for that I should be both good and evil spoken among all people. He said there was a book deposited, written upon plates of gold, giving account of the former inhabitants of this continent, and the source from whence they sprang. He also said that the fullness of the everlasting gospel was contained in it, as delivered by the Savior of the ancient inhabitants. Also that there were 2 stones and silver bows. These stones, fastened to a breastplate, constituted what called the Thummim. Deposited with the plates in the possession with the use of these stones were what constituted seers in ancient or former times, and that God had prepared them for the purpose of translating the book. Again, he told me that when I got those plates of which he had spoken, the time that they should be obtained was not yet fulfilled. Bethune, only to those to whom I should be commanded to show them. If I did, I should be destroyed, for he was conversing with me about the plates. The vision was open to my mind that I could see the place where the plates were deposited, so clearly and distinctly that I knew the place again when I visited it. After this communication, I saw the light in the room begin to gather immediately around the person. Vim had been speaking to me, and he continued to do so until the room were again left dark, except just around him, when instantly I saw, as it were, a conduit open right up, into heaven, and he ascended till he entirely disappeared in the room was left as it had been before this heavenly light had made its appearance. I lay musing on the singularity of the scene and marveling greatly at what had been told me about this extraordinary messenger. When in the midst of my meditation I suddenly discovered that my room was again beginning to get lighted, and in an instant, as it were, the same heavenly messenger was again by my bedside. He commenced and again related the same very things which he had done at his first visit, without the least variation, which having done, he informed me of great judgments which were coming upon the earth, with great desolations by famine, sword, and pestilence, and that these grievous judgments would come on the earth in this generation. Having related these things, he again ascended as he done before. By this time, so deep were the impressions made on my mind, that sleep had fled from my eyes, and I lay overwhelmed in astonishment at what I had both seen and heard. But what was my surprise when again I beheld the same messenger at my bedside and heard him repeat over again the same things as before, and added a caution to me, telling me that Satan would try to tempt me to get the plates for the purpose of getting rich. This he forbade me, saying that I must have no other object in view of getting the plates but to glorify God. It must not be influenced by any other motive than that of building his kingdom. Otherwise, I could not get him them. After this third visit, he again ascended into heaven as before. I was again left to ponder on the strangeness of what I had just experienced, when almost immediately after the heavenly messenger had ascended from me for the third time, the cock crowed, and I found the day was approaching, so that our interviews must have occupied the whole of that night. I shortly arose from my bed, and as usual, went to the necessary labors of the day. But in attempting to work, as at other times, found my strength was exhausted as to render me entirely unable. My father, who was laboring along with me, discovered something to be wrong with me, told me to go home. I started with the intention of going to the house, but in attempting to cross the fence out of the field where we were, my strength entirely failed me, and I fell helpless on the ground, and for a time was quite unconscious of anything. The first thing that I can recollect was a voice speaking unto me, calling me by name. I looked up, I beheld the same messenger standing over my head, surrounded by light as before. He then again related unto me all that he had related to me the previous night. He commanded me to go to my father and tell him of the vision and commandments which I had received. I obeyed. I returned to my father in the field, and rehearsed the whole matter to him. He replied to me that it was of God, and told me to go and do as commanded by the messenger. I left the field into the place where the messenger had told me the plates were deposited, and owing to the distinctness of the vision which I had concerning it, I knew the place the instant that I arrived there. Convenient to the village of Manchester, Ontario County, New York, stands a hill of considerable size, and the most elevated of any in the neighborhood. On the west side of this hill, not far from the top, under a stone of considerable size, lay the plates, deposited in a stone box. The stone was thick and rounding in the middle of the upper side, and thinner towards the edges, so the middle part of it was visible above the ground. The edge all around was covered with earth. Having removed the earth, I obtained a lever, which I got fixed under the edge of the stone, and with a little exertion raised it up. I looked in, and there indeed did I behold the plates, the urim and thummim, and the breastplate, as stated by the messenger. The box in which they lay was formed by laying stones together in some kind of cement. In the bottom of the box were laid 2 stone crossways of the box, and on these stones lay the plates, and the other things around with them. I made an attempt to take them out, but was forbidden by the messenger. I was again informed that the time for bringing them forth had not yet arrived, neither would it until 4 years from that time. But he told me that I should come to that place precisely in 1 year from that time, and that he would there meet with me, and I should continue to do so until the time should come for obtaining the plates. Accordingly, as I had been commanded, I went at the end of each year, and at each time I found the same messenger there, and received instruction and intelligence from him at each of our interviews, respecting what the Lord was going to do, and how, and in what manner his kingdom was to be conducted in the last days. At the length arrived from obtaining the plates, the urim and the thummim, and the breastplate, on the 22nd day of September, 1827, and gone as usual at the end of another year to the place where they were deposited. The same heavenly messenger delivered them up to me with this charge, that I should be responsible for them, and that if I should let them go carelessly, or through any neglect of mine, I should be cut off, but that I would use all my endeavors to preserve them, till he, the messenger, should call for them. They should be protected. I soon found out the reason why I had received such strict charges to keep them safe, and why it was that the messenger had said that when I had done what was required at my hand, he would call for them. For no sooner was it known that I had them, and the most strenuous exertions were used to get them from me. Every stratagem that could be invented was resorted to for that purpose. The persecution became more bitter and severe than before, and multitudes were on the alert continually to get them from me if possible, but by the wisdom of God, they remained safe in my hands until I had accomplished by them what was required at my hand. And according to arrangements, the messenger called for them. I delivered them up to him, and he set them in his charge till this day, being the 2nd day of May, 1830.